Okay guys, so this is just a quick update video on the FORCEATT two-person dome tent. You might have seen the first video where I erected it, had a first look at it basically, erected it and I used it for a couple of nights. Unfortunately it didn't rain. Should be fortunate, but unfortunately it didn't rain, so I couldn't test whether it was waterproof as is stated on the technical specification. However, I'm now camping in a place called Malham, a famous Malham Cove. Nice little campsite. However, it is going to rain tonight, and I think it is going to rain tomorrow. So I'm going to get a lot of rain over this next 12 to 24 hours. So, in fact, it is starting now. So, I'll come back to you tomorrow with how the FORCEATT tent performed in the rain. It's a great little tent. I've used it a few times now. Great little tent. But is it going to stay watertight? Let's see. Hi guys. So, as I left it last night with you, I was talking about the prospect of rain through the night, which allowed me to test this FORCEATT two-person dome tent to see whether it's waterproof or not. And I asked that question last night. This was its big test. So, I've had constant rain now for round about 16 hours, and it's absolutely lashing it down now. If you recall, when I did the setup video of the FORCEATT tent, I had the little sun canopy out just to demonstrate what you could do with it. The door that lifted up and then a couple of poles tied out, and it was great. So with the rain that's been this morning, it was fairly light to start with, heavy through the night, light this morning, but it's heavy again now. So I've set that canopy out just so I could make a coffee, just so that I could have a bit of room to sort things out. And with the light rain, it did sort of keep the rain off the immediate area in front of the tent. This is the inner tent here. Actually, this is a good feature. The door, as you've seen me unzip it, the door unzips all the way down, obviously, but you can have it half and half. So you can have it so the bottom half, which is the solid material, waterproof material to a degree, allows to keep a little bit of that rain out. And whilst actually I don't need this here at the moment, because I've not only got the door pegged out as a canopy, I've actually put a very small ground sheet over the top so that it actually stops the water from coming in from the sides. And I'll just show you that. But it doesn't stop it completely because it's not big enough really. I should have brought a tarp to put over the entrance area. And that's what I'd do again if I was heading to heavy rain. But, so it's a good setup, it's worked okay. But back to the question. Did the FORCEATT two-person dome tent survive the 16 hours of mostly heavy rain without leaking? Well, the answer to that is yes and no. I know it's a weird answer, but I'll explain why. The yes part is that so far it has survived the rain coming into the tent, other than 2 small drops. So when I got up this morning, after about 12 hours, there was 2 tiny drops of water in one of the corners, in that corner there. Now it's a bit too wet to go out and show you and film and show you where it is, but I've identified what the problem is. And it's one of the tie points where you tie the fly sheet to the frame. It ties in the 4 corners. One of those is leaking, but only just. And it's because whilst the overall workmanship of this tent actually is, for its price, £65, it's pretty good. It's very good, actually. Sorry, the overall quality for its price is very, very, very good. However, attention to detail. So that little tab there, which has obviously been stitched on, and then it'll be sealed, obviously hasn't been sealed sufficiently enough. So it hasn't been done good enough. So I've got that 2 drops of water, but that's the entire night, and there was 2 tiny drops of water. Hopefully I've got an image I can show you that, which I'll just put up on the screen here. And if that has come up, you'll see how small they are, and that's an entire night's worth of rain. So after 16 hours of rain, I had the 2 tiny drops of water in, and they were tiny. I've identified where that's coming from, and it's not to say there'll be other areas that haven't been sealed properly. So when I get home and get dried out with the tent, I'll go over everything and just check, and if need be, I'll just seal them. I will contact the company to ask them, explain the issue and see what they have to say, but I can seal that, I can solve that, as long as it holds out. The rest of the tent holds out. Now, I'm having a second night here, and we're going to have heavy rain on and off all day and through the night again. And then it clears up tomorrow, I think a bit of sun tomorrow. So the yes and no is generally the whole thing's held up really well under quite bad weather conditions. The 2 drops shouldn't happen, but I can solve that. I know exactly what the problem is. However, a continuous day of rain and rain through the night, let's see tomorrow if there's any more leaks. If that's all there is, I like this tent. I do like it. For lots of reasons, I like this tent. And if you go to the original video, I'll explain on that video why I like this tent. I can seal that, that's no problem. However, if it leaks in multiple places over the next 18 hours, 16 to 18 hours, then it's failed. I mean, you would say it's failed because there's 2 drops, but they're very tiny drops. I know what the problem is there. Shouldn't happen, but, you know, hey-ho, that's the way it goes. But if it leaks more, then finished. But so far, everything else is holding up. And I'll be so disappointed if I have to send this tent back, because it is a very nice tent to be in. It's a very nice tent, very usable tent. And I'll be bitterly disappointed if it fails anywhere else, because at that point it will be going back. It'll be finished. So that's it for now. I'll leave it now until tomorrow, and I'll come back tomorrow and let's see if there's anything else has happened. thanks a lot, guys. Looks like I'm going to have to sit this out for a while. Hopefully it might clear up a little bit. Otherwise, it's a walk to the pub. Spend the afternoon and evening in the pub. And I hate that, really. I don't mind the pub for a couple of hours, but not all day. Thank you, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. So, the morning after the night before. You've seen what happened after the first night of heavy rain. Well, 16 hours of rain continuously, with the 2 little drips of water that had egressed into the tent. And then I had a respite of about 5 hours where the weather was pretty reasonable, and then the storm came and we had thunder, lightning, heavy rain, and actually had water, if not flowing down the field, the camping field, starting to get the field a little bit waterlogged underneath the amount of rain that was coming down. So first night it was continuous, steady with a bit of heavy rain. Last night, or yesterday evening I should say, an absolute downpour, probably for about 4 hours, with thunder lightning. Some of the heaviest rain I've actually been out camping in, really heavy. So I asked you the question yesterday, how did the tent perform? Did it survive the rain test? And it was a yes and no, for the reasons I've explained. So last night, did it survive the rain test? And probably not as prolonged, but a heavier rain test. And it's yes and no again, but not for the same reasons. Last night, or yesterday evening, with that heavy rainfall, there was no water ingress into the tent, even from the 2 drops that had come through the day before, the night before. So there's no water came in through anywhere, including where it had come in, and I'll show you that in a minute, from a tie point. The only thing that happened was that the actual floor of the tent started to get that slight damp feeling, and that was because the ground was so soaked with water, and it'd be running down because we're on a field with a slight slope. Now, everywhere I go, every tent I use, I always throw a ground sheet underneath, either a footprint that comes with a tent or just a basic tarpaulin ground sheet. It just protects the tent floor, makes it a bit cleaner, and if you get the weather like it was last night, where we had that storm, you've got that extra layer of protection. Always do that, but I didn't with this tent, and the reason I didn't was I wanted to see how it would survive in its entirety with no extra levels of protection. So no water ingress, everything stayed tight, no water coming through the vents. I kept the vents open the entire time, not one drop of water was blown in through them, no water came in through any of the taped seams, and most bizarrely, no water came in through the point where I got the drips coming yesterday. But the ground sheet was just starting to feel that little bit of dampness, not wet, but just feeling it. You could just feel that the ground, the ground floor, the floor of the tent was starting to soak the water up a little bit. So it didn't cause a problem, but it might have done if it rained again, or it continued to rain for another 16 hours, it might have done. But the answer to that is and I do it with every tent, is put a footprint or a ground sheet underneath. And that's what you should be doing anyway. I've checked around a few of the other tabs and tie down points where there's extra bits stitched on. And there's one or two others that haven't leaked, but they could do with a drop of sealant to give some degree of satisfaction it's not going to leak in the future. Now, I know there's people out there will say, well, you only paid £65 for the tent. What can you expect? Well, I think you should expect, if it says it's waterproof, it should be waterproof. I expect if somebody sells you something, it should be fit for purpose. So I think the argument of, well, if you pay £1,000 for a tent versus £65 for a tent, there should be a difference in that the £1,000 tent will be good, will be watertight, and what do you expect for a £65 tent? Personally, I think it's an argument that's irrelevant, because at the end of the day, if you buy something, it should work. And although I've concentrated on a couple of weaknesses with the tent, and having a couple of drips of water into your tent, and it was only 2 small drips, but it's still not good enough. So, although I've concentrated on the tiny leak that I had, and the slight, wasn't wet, but slight damp feeling to the ground sheet, I really need to put that aside, because that was the whole purpose of testing this tent in lots of rain, was to see if it leaked, to see if it substantially leaked, in other words, flooded out the inside, and to see if it could withstand the weather conditions that I've had over the last 2 days. And it has. It's withstood it really well. Forget the little leak. Could happen with any tent. I can solve that in a matter of 30 seconds of application and then a little bit of time for drying. So, on the inside, the fly attaches to the frame with a tie point there. So you tie that, and then it clicks into a buckle at the bottom. So that tie point is one that needs just a touch of sealant in, because the sealant hasn't quite grabbed it at the edge. So put all that aside, £65, and this is remarkably good value for money. This tent is a very usable and pleasant tent to spend time in, even when it's horrible weather. Like yesterday evening, I just had to bunker down because of the stormy weather. This tent has facilities that just make it a little bit different at the budget end of the market. You've seen how this door comes out as a shelter. Last night the weather was so bad that wouldn't keep the rain out, so I just put a small tarp over, just so it had some sides to it and the water would just disappear off. But under normal fine rain, that would be okay for a period of time anyway. You've got good storage here and good storage on the other side of the tent. The other side of the tent has that split down the middle, and you can roll both doors back to open up the whole thing. Or if the weather's bad, you don't want to use this big door, you can just have one of the smaller doors open, and it'll be easier for getting in and out without bringing water in and out with you. This tent has a storage loft. You've seen it. If you haven't seen it, go and check out the original video, the setup video, the first impression video. Storage, that is fantastic. It's got pockets in each corner. The vents work tremendously well. I've had, in the time I've used it, the first 2 days of use prior to coming to this campsite, it was quite warm, and the vents work brilliantly. Those vents, last night I didn't shut them, so the vents let the air in, but they don't let the water in, even under windy, because at one point the rain was going sideways. You can get the tent in forest green, or you can get the tent in all sorts of colours. I chose this one just for a little bit of a change. I usually get green tents, and you can get it in a green. It's a 2-man tent. 2 people could sleep in here because you've got the decent sized vestibules either side to store. Personally, I think this is ideal for 1 person because you've got bags of room to put your kit inside with I keep cooking kit and motorcycle boots outside. The zips are quite good on this. Don't know what make they are. I just couldn't tell you, but they're quite good. The big sort of D-shaped door, the big oval shaped door opens with 1 hand all the way through. You can also, like I did last night, you can also have it zipped so that the bottom half of the waterproof side of the inner sits at about that height. So if you've got a little bit of light rain and you've got the door pegged out so that it's a porch, have that and you're not going to get any rain. I didn't last night. You would need to have a couple of extra poles and a guy line or 2 guy lines to achieve the canopy, but they're cheap enough. It's got aluminium poles. To be honest, I intended getting this tent with a view to testing it. I just found the cheapest tent that was for sale on eBay and Amazon. Well, I bought 2 actually, this and a smaller stealth tent, the Miltech Recon 1. The Recon 1 I intend to keep because I want to do some more stealthy camping on my travels. This I just purely bought to try it out, test it, let you know what I thought of it, let you know if it was waterproof. So there you are, you pay your money, you get your product, and either you like it or you don't. It either survives or it doesn't. I mean, technically with the little faults I found, I could just have the money refunded, send it back, or get them to pick it up. But I do like the tent, so let's see how we get on with it. Thanks for watching, really appreciate it.